Signing up to the leadership group. We're in no excuses club here at Crunch Time. But Adam Simpson, what happens when Qantas cancels your flight to Brisbane and then follows up by cancelling your flight home from Brisbane?
You fly Virgin.
The daily double. They did the double.
Wow. Isn't that
Cancelled
annoying?
both flights.
That's ridiculous. How'd you do it then?
I pleaded to get onto the 8, which and had the backstairs been there, I sort of feel like I would have been a chance.
This was disputed by the gents. The seat 29C. You're
was
saying
lucky
hand on
I
heart.
was lucky to be on any.
Well, this is true.
In any seats.
Right.
But yes, it was 29C,
There
which
you
would have
go.
been, if the backstairs had been there, I would have made it.
Oh, you've given me the proof. There you are. Gate 24, Group 3, 29C.
I've listened to your whole Bulldogs conversation. I want to revisit that as we go. But our experts today are Adam Simpson and Mark Bickley. Thanks to Aviso Group. Underinsurance leaves your business vulnerable. Don't get a no-obligation insurance health check with an Aviso Group broker. That is, get a no-obligation insurance health check with an Aviso Group broker. The Brisbane Lions coach Chris Fagan is with us. Fags, great to have you on Crunch Time. Welcome.
Thank you, Gerard.
What do you think the morning after? Again, it was just a bit closer than you might have liked.
Oh, I was still overall happy with the performance. I honestly believe we should have won by a bigger margin than we did. We made life hard for ourselves because we missed some easy opportunities in front of goal, and the Bulldogs are incredibly accurate. But when you consider that they're the highest scoring team in the comp this year, we kept them to 16 shots on goal. I thought it was a pretty fair defensive effort.
Fags, sorry, mate.
You go.
I was just going to ask you about the buy. You had a late buy. It was only 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's normally a chance to, reflect and reset. Did you do anything without giving too much away with the reset piece? Is there anything in particular that was glaring in the spare time you did have in that break, or did you just have a break?
No, we had a bit of a look at a few things, Simo. The biggest thing was, our record at the Gabba had become a little bit alarming. I think we were 4 wins and 3 losses at the Gabba, and we won more on the road than we'd actually won at home. So we spent a bit of time talking about that in the break with the players and sort of resetting ourselves for, I think we've had 2 games since the bye at the Gabba and 2 more to go. So we sort of tried to set ourselves to win those 4 games and, just turn up in the right frame of mind, and a few little tweaks there. Outside of that, it was just little sort of micro bits of our game that we sort of wanted to go to work on, but that was the major thing.
Chris, does it look like this year you just have a more even spread? I think, Levi Ashcroft's been great, Jasper Fletcher, we know Will Ashcroft's had a great year, but Cal Archie has just continued to get better and better as well, and Logan Morris and Lohman. I feel like there's much more even spread. You don't, have that star system that potentially, people looked at in previous years.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, for a few years there, it was all about Lockie Neal and Joe Danaher, but I think, we've developed real depth. There is an even spread of responsibility and work rate, even with our scoring. We've got a lot of guys that can hit the scoreboard, and there's sort of no one source that we really rely on. So I think that's been a good growth in us this year, something we want to keep going with. I mean, it's a little harder to pick you off if it's not obvious, so you've got to stop. So I think that's a good thing.
Talking about picking you off, folks, I think the identity of the side that you've had is, it's very naive to say it's just, you make the ground big, uncontested marks, and that's how you go about it. It feels like there's a lot more depth to the style of play, where you can play last week and go pretty hard at inside to out with your handball and metres gain, and then you can also turn into a wet weather team as much as a dry weather team. Is that the evolution of the side in the last 12 months as opposed to this time last year?
Yeah, I think there's been as the group's grown older together, Simo, I think they sort of understand what to do in given situations, and it takes a bit of time to develop that, especially when you've brought some new young players into the side in more recent times. So, I think that's been a growth in us. So, they know what to do. Even in the end last night, when the scores got close, the boys knew exactly what we needed to do when there was a minute and a half to go, 4 points up. Let's get to work on that, and it sort of happened pretty automatically. So that's good. That's what you hope for when you spend a bit of time with a group, that you've got enough leaders out on the field that they can pretty much run the show and know what to do. But I thought it was a good effort last night to sort of adapt to the wet weather. We don't play in the wet very often, and funnily enough, before the game, I said to the boys, I said, listen, this is what I want you to do if the weather's dry, but if it rains, you're going to have to do this. And so they just jumped onto that pretty quickly and adapted well.
Yeah, well, it does look like that way at the moment with the way you're playing. It's definitely got a lot more flexibility, and the only thing I hear consistently from yourself is we should have won by more. The shots at goal, and I know it's a bugbear, but once again, last night it was another position where you've had 14 points to 12 goals. It's hard to fix that one, isn't it?
It is. You win by 10 points and we had 10 more shots on goal. So, and I think someone said we had 34 shots all up, so we kicked a few out in the full and a couple that didn't make the distance. So we created a lot of opportunities for ourselves, and it is the third game this year. I think the Adelaide game and the Giants game, which we lost in consecutive weeks, I think we had 20 more shots than our opposition and collectively in those games, and didn't manage to get a W in either game. So it has been a bit of a thing of ours over the years. And strangely enough, it often happens at the Gabba, which you wouldn't think would happen because we train there and we have shots on goal there all the time. But one of those things, yes, I hope it doesn't bite us on the backside too much. We definitely do a lot of work on it. So I'm not sure what the reason for it is.
So you are a great one not to obsess over something like that, Fags, but so you do the work. Is there a new layer to it, or do you just hope that it doesn't happen on the main days?
We sort of just pretty steady with our practice. We don't change it up or down. We do a fair bit. But that's how it just rolls sometimes. I think if you make too much of that and make it an issue, then it becomes something that's embedded in the back of their minds, and perhaps psychologically, when they're having a shot to goal, they become too worried. So I tend not to talk too much about it, to be honest. I'm pretty happy if we're creating a lot of shots. It's more of a problem if you're not. So we'll just back our boys in to do it on the day.
Simo and I talked about early on in the show about it gets a bit wet and cold and you get sort of late in the year and sometimes it can be a bit of a grind. But do you sense that you're about to come out of that? You know, there's 5 rounds to go. As you get closer to finals, that anticipation starts to grow. Are you sensing that with your team?
Yeah, I think so. We talked at the beginning of July about, this is the time last year when we really got ourselves going, and it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to be trying to do the same thing this year. So, it's been a focus of ours. I think the boys can see the end of the season. They can see the finals. I think that helps. Mind you, we're not there yet. It's probably going to take 15 wins to make sure you get in. So we've got to get another couple of wins up. But I think you can sense that the boys are really enthusiastic at the moment. Not that hard up here, and the winter's not that bad. The sun comes out and it's 22, 23 degrees every day, so it's reasonably pleasant compared to, say, Melbourne and Adelaide, where it can get pretty cold.
Yeah, don't remind us, please.
So, 7th year in contention, Fags. It's a tremendous run, and I think the point was made during the week quite well, as the previous 2 premiers, it was exhausting for them and they missed the finals the following year. How do you think, and Bick's reference, there's a whole set of players who are having their career best years off the back of a premiership. To this point in time, how do you assess that level of hunger and persistence to be in contention again, having climbed the mountain successfully?
Yeah, it is an interesting challenge. I mean, I had the good fortune to be at Hawthorn where we played it 4 in a row and won 3 of them. So a little bit of experience there in terms of, trying to make sure you come up again the next year. Because I remember at the Hawks, my first year there was 2008, and we won the Premiership and then didn't make finals next year. And what happened was a lot of the players turned up pretty happy with themselves after the pre-season, a little bit overweight, they were quite content with life. And I was probably able to talk to our boys after we won the Premiership last year about that experience and how it changed a few years later when they won again. The conversation was around, what were we like last time we won one boys, and they all talked about the fact that we didn't look after ourselves, we didn't come back in great shape. So I just relayed that story and said to them, I'll know whether you're on by the way you turn up the first day of pre-season. And to everyone's credit, they turned up in great shape and hungry to go again. We talked about the idea of just staying humble but being confident and getting that confidence from the fact that we know that we can do it, and trying to sort of do what other teams haven't been able to do all that regularly. So put the challenge at their feet. That was almost the first conversation in the rooms when I had the players after the game when we won the grand final. Was okay, we've got to enjoy this, but what's next if we want to be a successful team ongoing? So fortunately, the leadership group have been pretty influential in driving that attitude, and hopefully we can stay hungry and get another opportunity this year to play finals.
Chris, Sam Edmund here. Great to have you on. We were talking earlier that not too many CEOs, I think it's fair to say, would have had a Gatorade shower after a game. Now, Hugh McCluggage is obvious for 200, and even Danny Daly, head of football, was celebrated for his 250th. Were these things driven by you? Can you tell us a bit about the presentation and the photos you had on the wall maybe beforehand?
Yeah, look, we celebrate milestones here hard. I think it's worthwhile when they're great achievements. For Huey McCluggage, for instance, to play his 200th game in such a short space of time, really. I mean, we turned up at the club together, he and I, and he's hardly missed a game in the whole time that he's been here. So it's a great testament to his resilience. So we had highlights video of Huey and messages from family and friends, and I got the players to speak about Huey in the team meeting on Thursday before the day before the game, and players were able to stand up and say what they thought of him as a person and what his value was around the footy club. So that was a good moment. Danny Daly, we put a little booklet together of people's comments on just how important he is to our organisation and the great work that he does on a regular basis. We put that together in a booklet and presented that to him at the same team meeting, so he's got something written there that he can keep for the rest of his life, and it wasn't just the players, it was all the staff as well, obviously in his role. And Swanee, well, we got him down to the team meeting on Friday, and I made a little bit of a speech about him and thanked him for everything. I mean, he's the guy that's made a lot of the decisions over the last 10 or 11 years that have helped the club get back on its feet, because we were in a pretty poor situation not so long ago. So we acknowledge that, and his wife Leonie has been very good to all the recruits that we've brought to the club. So Swanee was in the team meeting on Thursday as well, and we talked about that. And then it went up again last night before the game that we're playing for a higher purpose tonight. These three people are celebrating milestones of one thing or another. So hopefully that'll motivate you a little bit more. And then it seemed logical to put the big Swanee and Danny in the huddle after the game, and they copped the Gatorade shower. I think the boys were pretty keen on that. I did mention to them that was a good reason to win. We could give Swanee a Gatorade shower. So that's probably the main motivation of last night, I think. Just
with Greg moving on, though, and the bigger picture, if you don't mind, Chris, like Simon Garlick this week said he wants the father-son rule as it stands abolished. He says it has no place in the modern game, and we know St Kilda President Andrew Bassett said similar in the past that he would scrap it. Now, the footy poets are always going to have Levi and Will play good games as a result last night, and Jasper's always solid. Like, would you be a fierce defender of the father-son system as it exists at the moment?
Yeah, no, I would be, and I think the people who complain about it just don't have any father-sons at the moment. I'm not sure that they'd be coming out with the same complaints if they had a handful. And what goes around comes around. I mean, Brisbane didn't have any father and sons not so long ago, and it's just happened that we popped up with the two Ashcrofts and Jasper Fletcher. But it might be a long time before another player or two comes along, and it'll be somebody else's turn. And I think the idea that sons and daughters of great players previously at the club get the opportunity to play at that club is a great part of our game. So I'm not in any hurry to see that go. I mean, I just think it's one of those things that, every now and then you're the beneficiary of it, but it's not all the time. It'd be somebody else's turn. So I'd keep it, But I do find it amusing that the ones that complain the most are the ones that haven't got any. So There you go.
Hard to find context just quickly with vision sometimes. What had you a little frustrated early on? The cameras captured you in the first quarter. Was that? It looked like it was related to the Dane Zorko injury early. Was that the truth?
I was a little bit frustrated because the medical people couldn't tell me what was going on with him, and Darcy Gardner had a little bit of an injury at the same time. So the two of them were off the ground. I'm thinking, is anyone going to tell me if these blokes are going to be available? Right? Because I just wanted to work out what to do next. Because you're sort of there thinking to yourself, you're going, well, if one of them's got to come out of the game, where's the sub going to play? Who are we going to move? All those sorts of things. And I sort of left there not knowing. So I was just a bit. I shouldn't have got like it, and I don't very often, but I was a little bit tired up.
No.
At the VFL today, Fakes, who have you got an eye on at the moment for the short and the medium term on the run to September?
Yeah, well, I just drove down to Brighton Homes Arena where the game is going to be played. We've got a number of good young players. Sam Day's playing today as well. Ty Gallup, Henry Smith, who's a young ruckman who we had high hopes for. He's been out most of the year injured. He's been back playing the last couple of weeks. So I'm interested to see how he goes. And obviously Tom Dudale will play today, which is great. Kitty Coleman's playing today. So hopefully they can get into some form and put a little bit of pressure on the boys in the AFL team.
It's going to be hard to crack into that team, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, if we keep playing well, it will be. That's what you want. But you also need to know that you need depth in your squad. In the last few weeks we've lost Jack Payne and Noah Answorth for the rest of the season, so things can change pretty quickly, and you want to make sure that you've got some good players to come in, and we'll be able to welcome Zach Bailey back next week as well, who was out this week with suspension, and it was probably timely that he was out because his mum had a stroke earlier in the week, and so he sort of went back to Adelaide to see her, and I thought to myself, I don't really think he should play this week, and as it turned out, he got suspended. And good news is his mum's going to be okay, and Zach will be back this week, fresh from a week off.
Chris, how good is it that the Q Clash is coming up? Both sides now vying for spots high up in the 8. The rivalry's clearly been building, but it's a high quality match and much anticipated.
Yeah, it's a bloody big game next week. It's probably the biggest Q Clash ever. We were saying that earlier in the year, but I think it's even bigger now with more at stake. Yes, they've improved enormously. The Gold Coast under a living suitcase out of each other, and the Gold Coast Suns are a bit tired next week. But no, that should be a great game.
There should be banners hanging all over Gold Coast by Monday. Bloody big clash. Yeah. Fags, it's always great to catch up. Good luck for it.
No worries.
Chris Fagan,
Fags.
Premiership coach at the Brisbane Lions. We'll pick all of that up in a moment with Adam Simpson and Mark Bickley. The Friday night wrap for AFL Masters. Footy for fun. Have fun. Keep fit. Kick goals for all over 35. 19 edition of Crunch Time for Freeway Motor Group. Visit Freeway Motor Group for end of financial year deals and a Zito brushless power tools built to work. A Zito do you. Gerard, Whateley, Sam Edmund, Adam Simpson and Mark Bickley. The thorough review of Brisbane's win over the Bulldogs. What about Thursday night, Simo? Did we learn anything from Thursday night?
Not one thing. Well, nothing other than I've been where Brad's been before. And he's been stoic. I thought his press conference the week before, there was a real vulnerability piece in that press conference. And then halfway through, he's gone, I've got to stop talking like this. And he pivoted. I could literally see his body change. Go, hang on, I need to be stoic. I need to say there's no excuses. I need to say, but the true reality is when you've got 25, 26 available for training, you cannot get better. You can hold on and hopefully get some players back, and then you start to audit the whole club, and then everyone is on eggshells. And we went through this, and it was a really difficult cultural piece within the four walls of the footy department because everyone's asking questions. Why is this happening? And you really find a lot about yourself as a leader and about your staff and finger pointing, people taking the blame, people feeling bad, people being scared to comment, all these type of things that you really try and be inclusive. And you heard Chris and Fags talk about just the things he did to celebrate the little things. So you picture what they're doing. Oh, it's Danny Daly's 250th. Let's celebrate. Let's get a book together. And then you picture what Brad's doing, and it's just such a different. And you just live. If you're around long enough, you actually have to deal with those type of things. So we went through this 3 or 4 years ago. Unfortunately for Brad, and this is what happened to me, whether it happens to him or not, is in 2 years' time they're going to go, oh, well, they've only won 10 games out of the last 40, and it's not going to matter the fact that they had to deal with this. So I hope that's not the case, but it definitely was over here. Not to say it's an excuse, but it's just a reason. So yeah, he's doing it tough.
Simo, on reflection, what would be the best advice you could give him? What is there to focus on? What would you sort of hone in on?
Well, if I knew, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, Big. So I've said this before. No, to be honest, it's I think looking after your staff as much as your players is what you need to do at the moment, because you're a mini CEO, I suppose, of your football department. There's 45 players and there's also 45 staff. So making it feel comfortable at work, I don't know how well I did that in terms of am I carrying the weight of the losses and the despair into the not locker room, into the offices around the four walls. So what's the environment like? So can you be positive? Can you speak to your staff in a way that's actually, hey, hang in there, guys. Thanks for having our back. We've got your back. And then suddenly you let go your head of strength and conditioning. And trust me, that is a big move, because that and you know what it's like, Bix, at a footy club. Underneath him is 15, 20 staff. Who's running the show now? What are we doing with training planning? It wasn't his fault. It was his fault. There's all these type of things that Brad needs to lead really well. I suppose just try and make it as enjoyable as you can, but it is really difficult. Really difficult.
And we've got this horrible situation at the moment where somehow the Bombers, while being 13th with a percentage of 75, lost their last 7 games, an injury list with 16 names on it, Gerard. They've found themselves the primetime kings in this back quarter of the season. And that you don't even need hindsight to realise this is a bad idea, because this is part of the fixture, the floating fixture. The exact reason this thing exists, round 16 to 23, was actually laid out in mid-May. Now, at that stage, Essendon, admittedly, weren't as bad as what they are now, but they were 11th, quite clearly not among the contenders, with an increasing injury list. So they've got this glut of games coming up. Thursday night, that against the Giants. They've got Friday night, this coming against the Dogs. They've got a round 22 Friday night against Geelong. Another Friday night, round 23 against St Kilda. The Carlton round 24 game will have to be a standalone Thursday or Friday to accommodate the make-up game against Gold Coast, which, you guessed it, while that's no one's fault, will be another standalone game.
Well, it is the AFL's fault. None of this requires any hindsight. The idea of shifting this game to the end of the season was daft. They already had a flexible fixture and could have slotted it in, and they were playing for rank dumb luck that this game was going to be the pinnacle moment of the home and away season, and it would have impact for both. And instead, it could be one of the worst games the Code has ever seen. But
that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yes, yeah. I wouldn't rule it out happening
again. But so 5 games up in lights from here, though.
It's so bad. It's like they ignored... Brad Scott had declared full-blown rebuild specifically early in the season to wave to everybody, going, this is what's going on here. Just so you're under no illusions whatsoever. It's like the AFL went, nah, that's not real. There are a couple of scribes who went, no, that's not real. It's real. And if you're paying any level of attention and applying any rigour, you knew they were a team in full-blown rebuild before the scourge of injury struck.
So, Simo, you're saying you've lived it, and you have, but he's living it at the moment, Brad Scott, and I've got sympathy and empathy for Essendon, because they're going to have to live at their most difficult moment with nowhere to hide.
And we're all going to hate them for it, because they're ruining our primetime games.
I think, they are. Well, it's not... Yeah, I mean, from a coaching point of view, I don't think Brad cares. You can't hide in the AFL just because you're on Sunday afternoon. There's no, it's still going to be a talking point. So what can they chase if you slip into coach mode? They can't go, let's be entertaining because it's Thursday. Let's try and make it 100 points. We played a team once, I won't say who it was. Their sole goal was to get to 100 points. We kicked 160 points. And they were celebrating once they tipped over the 100, so they were going through a phase, this particular side. And maybe that's what the that what Brad can do is let's go offense the whole, let's shape and bake. Let's try and get this entertaining game. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be blood the young kids, try and get an identity, try and be competitive around the ball, celebrate the first gamers, celebrate the little things. And those things, regardless of when you play, is what I'm assuming his focus will be.
And they get a chance to have a look at some of these players and see whether they've got genuine futures as well. So the one thing that we probably forget, or we shouldn't, but those guys that are playing their first game, their families and them and all the people around them, it's a huge day for them and it's a huge achievement for them. So there are still some things there, but it's
not enough to carry Friday night. So
exactly.
I do think they've done that really nicely, but which is important for their culture and their and the value that they put on it. I do think. So you say you can't hide away, Simo, which is right to a point. But rebuilding is for 1 p.m. and 4:40 p.m. It's not for and the twilight game. It's for the double up game, and that's just the AFL's responsibility. It's got nothing to do with the rebuilding club. That's the AFL's responsibility to make sure that they are not subjected, or we are not subjected to their rebuilding.
The problem, just to deviate a tiny bit about what Brad's going through, there's young players playing right now that they won't be on the list next year. I can't say who it is, but there's guys there, they're going, we've debuted 12 players. That's not a badge. That's like, well, out of those 12, 3 might make it. Yeah. So and going through this myself, you start playing your 40th player on your list, it becomes it's exciting, but at the same time, you're not wasting your time, but you are giving opportunity to players who won't be there in the long term as well.
And the Giants side of things, I don't want to quibble too much about a 48-point win, but they probably didn't get all that they needed to, as percentage is crucial for them, that's a hard road to walk as well. They did what needed to be done. Stringer has a great night, but they didn't quite hit the heights that they probably needed to.
Mm-hmm. I felt like they literally played 12 or 13 minutes, didn't they, in that second quarter, where from about the 12-minute mark to the 24-minute mark, they kicked 5 unanswered goals and they just moved the ball really well and they showed what they were capable of. After that, it became a bit of a grind and sometimes it gets into that mode of the game where you hope it doesn't happen, but players start to maybe preserve themselves a little bit, and that was going to be the challenge for Adam Kingsley. How do you set them goals to maybe get something a bit more out of that game? But it never reached any great heights in the second half, and I think it was something like 8 goals to 6 in the second half, which we know, comparing the talent between the two sides, it's a bigger margin than what was showed. Yeah,
well, I mean, the only thing who's got the Bombers? The Bulldogs this week.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're playing a side like, and I know this happened to us when we were in our rebuild or injury crisis, is teams can refine their style of play. So there's an opportunity there to actually really focus on some real big KPIs. I saw Brisbane do a really good job against Carlton the week before when they said, we're going after tackles and pressure and we don't care who we're playing. So they're the type of things I think, as much as the scoreboard it's 48 points, so you can't complain. But can you actually get a bit of an identity with front half turnovers or contested possession, all those lot of things? They're the things you can chase if you're a dominant side rather than, let's just try and win by 100 points. I think they'd still chase the right things.
What could Stringer be in a final series, do you reckon, Simo?
Well, he's exactly what they thought he'd be, I think. I mean, the boos, there's a few boos from, was it Stringer's fault he left? I thought they kicked him out. I think he looks like he's happy and healthy, doesn't he? Now, I'm not sure if he's fitter or not. That's up for debate. But if he can kick you 3 goals in a prelim, or even the sub, as much as you probably think he shouldn't be a sub, wouldn't he be a perfect sub to come on, halfway through the third quarter and really set the game alight? So yeah, he could be one of the most important pieces of that puzzle, and they've done it again too, haven't they? For the 3rd year in a row, the Giants just work through the first quarter of the season, have a flat little period, and then you get more home games and you get your players in a good rhythm and back and available, and then it looks like they're they're chasing the top half of the 8 now, not the bottom.
And they've still got players that come back in as well. We know that Hogan didn't play on the weekend, and even from last year, they lost Perryman and Peatling and coming as well. So they've had to sort of cover some players. Daniel hasn't been available for a lot of that. Kelly didn't play. So they've still got some upside, even though they, we saw, do what they had to do. But there's still a lot to build upon. Cabman's last couple of weeks have been outstanding. On the weekend, he wasn't great, but the 2 weeks prior to that, he looked like a colossus at times. He's taken the ball at the highest point. He's kicking it absolutely beautifully, and he just looks like that belief now has settled in his mind. So that's a really exciting thing in terms of the Giants not having to rely on Jesse Hogan being the one guy who needs to kick all their goals.
Interesting, the top 4 right now, Gerard. Collingwood, Brisbane, Adelaide and the Giants. It'd be an interesting final series, wouldn't it, if the 3 of the top 4 sides are all interstate. So a lot to play out, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot to play out still, I reckon, at the Giants in terms of player retention too, because at the other end of the ground, Leckerle is a real watch. In fact, at the moment, I mean, if Adam Kingsley's saying he's a bit worried about Leckerle staying, then you read it that he's almost certainly gone. Yes, exactly. And you can understand why he just can't get a regular game there. So last year, rivals came from everywhere for this guy. They could see he had that breakout game against Geelong that caught everyone's attention. But I like the fact he was contracted. He decided, no, I'm going to stay on contract. I'm going to fight for my spot. So he's done that. But the reality is he's behind 2 or 3 there, clearly. Taylor and Buckley, I don't know, Simo Bix might be the best defensive pairing in the game. Harry Himmelberg, they love. Connor Ryden's there. They have experimented with all of Taylor, Buckley, Himmelberg and Delia in some games this year, but it's not the long-term play. And the Giants want to keep him, but this is about opportunity, but also money as well, Gerard. So St Kilda's the most likely suitor, not the only one, but the most likely, with a contract between 700 and 800 a year for him. Now, the Giants, that's a decent gap from what the Giants are offering, and they can't guarantee him football. So there's a pretty good reason why Adam Kingsley's worried about his future. And keeping.
Just the ladder that you referenced, and I want to, so kudos to you, Adam Simpson, as a rookie ladder predictor player months ago. You had the Bulldogs out of the 8 heading to round 20,
please.
And you're going to be right.
Don't indulge in
It makes me...
Well, no,
to be
because
honest.
I did correct myself because I missed 2 games, and so that's
He had them
2
fourth.
games
You
short.
had them 9th, I had them 4th.
Oh, Gerard, come on, mate.
So just the idea of 9th, so the Giants aren't quite safe yet, but they probably have to get to 14 with their percentage to be absolutely safe. Gold Coast have the game in hand, which is the Essendon game. So if you give them that game, just run with me there and put them to 48, then you've got this incredible scramble. Geelong don't play another team in the top 9, so you imagine that they're going to win their way through. One of Hawthorn, Fremantle or the Bulldogs is going to miss. And that is going to be so bitterly disappointing for that team, isn't it, Simo?
Oh, and who would get the most criticism out of those 3 sides?
That's such a high bar, because the Bulldogs will get nailed to the wall for re-signing the coach and missing the 8.
What would it mean for
Fremantle
Longmuir
might sack the coach if they miss the 8. And Hawthorn, who are the darlings of the competition coming in, to miss the 8.
It's got to be Freo.
And if it was the Suns, well, the condemnation couldn't be strong enough, is to still be that
no,
team.
They surely can't. They surely.
Yeah.
But you're right, and the fixture for those 3 sides. I mean, they've all got, they're all sort of playing each other at some stage. I mean, the Bulldogs play Fremantle, like we said earlier, in the last round of the year. So that's big. And Hawthorn play Collingwood in the second last round. So there's a lot going on.
So to each of you, who would it be the biggest disaster for to miss?
I'd say Fremantle.
I think Fremantle. That's who I was going to say. I've got Hawthorn missing, but I think there's a fair bit of goodwill still with Sam Mitchell. But even you think about that, they brought in Barras and Battle, and they've gone backwards.
Have you seen that, Biggs? Those 2? Yeah,
look, I always thought it was a strange move. They, clearly targeted those players, but generally, if you're going to spend that type of money and you're going to, get those players in, there has to be a need, and I just didn't feel like there was a huge need. That maybe you could take one, but I just didn't feel like they needed to grab 2 players, I think that it has disrupted. Like Sicily, I think he's sort of a bit confused about what his role is and how he's going, and now he's not playing well. Like it's just the obvious thing that everyone looks at. It looks a lot different to what it was last year. So that's the reason why they're not performing as well. But last year they just had 6 guys who was 191, who were super mobile. So Whateley and Scrimshaw and Sicily, and just 6 guys, and they played on blokes who were 4'8". They played on blokes who were 6'4", and they just were able to. Didn't matter who they were matched up against, and when they got the opportunity to just explode off, they did that. So I just don't know if Barras in particular has that flexibility of some of those other guys.
I got it wrong before too. The last round of the year, there's 2 games that are pretty big. It's Freo and the Bulldogs, and then it's Brisbane versus Hawthorn. So they're your 3 teams playing in the last. So that's there's some good games coming up. As much as it's been a bit of a grind the last few weeks, I still think there's some. And the other intriguing part, which we might talk about later, is Port Adelaide, Carlton, and Melbourne. Like that's a different conversation about where they're going next year.
They're all in don't muck it up territory, those teams as well. Don't be the team. Someone will drop a game to the team in the bottom 9. Any loss to Sydney that's okay. It will be shockingly for mathematics, but don't be the team that drops a game to Melbourne or Carlton or Port Adelaide as you've identified. Because it just could be that one mistake might cost you your place in the 8.
Slippery slope.
Yeah.
Very slippery slope at the moment.
The margins are very narrow. So that's the hot seats. There's nothing like Razorback 4x4. We will dig into... Have you studied up on Tasmanian politics for today?
How can you not? A 4-state election in 7 years. They're a regular event down there, Gerard. The unwanted and the unexpected election.
Take 4 minutes to put it into Chat GPT and see if we can sound like experts on Tasmanian politics.
Can you do that?
Can you?
I've got to work that out. I need help.